You booked it, episode 135. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Every episode is a masterclass on how to move your career forward. And if you want even more, head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the email community where we dig deep into what you can be doing right now to help book that next gig. And now, let's do this. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Tonya Todd. Are you ready for this, Tonya?
I am.
All right. Tonya is an American author, actress, and producer. Born in Pennsylvania, she plunged into Las Vegas young enough to immerse herself in bright lights, big city, and bold dreams. Her sundry background ranges from content writer to software programmer to convention model. With a cast of characters as diverse as her careers, her work explores the infinite hues of what drives us all, relationships and desires. Tonya, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
First, the easy part. I'm an author and actress here in Las Vegas. I was born in Pennsylvania, but I did grow up here, so I'm almost a local.
Yeah,
I feel like a local at this point.
of course.
My journey began with writing fiction. I wasn't considering being an actor at all. And I wrote a novel about a woman who quits her job and becomes an actress, and eventually I followed her lead.
How ironic.
Instead of art mirroring my life, it was like my life manifested from my art. And now I'm blessed to follow my own dreams. I get to work in theater, television, and film, and I've even dabbled in producing. One day I hope to direct.
Yeah, that is so funny how you manifested it through a story. That's crazy.
Yeah, and a lot of things have happened with that. I'm afraid to write some things now because too much has happened that I've written.
You're right. I believe
I've
it.
had family members say, okay, just make sure you don't say this, and maybe a character based on me wins the lottery. I'm just saying.
All right, well, let's move on to our first section here. And Tonya, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
Be true to yourself and you will never fall.
So true. And can you expand on that a bit, on how you've applied that to your life and your career?
I should probably mention it is a Beastie Boy quote. It's ripped off from a song. It stuck with me. It's always, whenever anyone asks me for a quote like this, it's immediate. It comes to mind. When I grew up, I was a biracial tomboy. So I always felt like the other in the room. I wasn't Black enough. I wasn't white enough. I wasn't feminine enough. And then I was often told girls should do this or Black people shouldn't do that. And I was teased for being different. It took me several years to recognize that it's okay to be my brand of weird, that it's okay for a Black girl to pine for her Mr. Darcy. And there's nothing wrong with being a woman who likes comics, horror, fighting, or simply being in charge.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
as long as I'm my authentic self, I have what no one else has to bring to the table, essentially.
It's so great that you've embraced that. I love you said my own style of weird. Is that what you said? Or own flavor of weird?
I think I said my own brand of weird.
Your own brand of weird. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And let's get into this next section now. And Tonya, of course, you're an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while
Yes, and a thick skin.
and there's an outrageous amount of obstacles, challenges, and failures that we're going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
So my look is ethnically ambiguous. I know you can't see me right now, but most roles are written for people who clearly fit into a racial category.
Hmm.
Most roles are white unless otherwise stated. And then even casting sites default to Caucasian. So when a role calls for a Black woman, they don't mean me. They don't mean ethnically ambiguous. They mean a darker skinned woman. And sometimes people think that I can't even pass for Black. I'm not white enough. I'm not Black enough. If they're looking for a family role, I don't fit neatly into that package. So I've had to accept that I'm not usually what anyone is picturing when they write a part. And they aren't willing to, some people just aren't willing to veer from that original vision. When it comes to writing, lack of diversity is what fuels most of my fiction. And now I've applied that to film. So if people don't have my look in mind when they write their scripts, then I'll write the projects that have me in mind. For example, once lockdown hit in Vegas, I ended up adapting my manuscript to a feature-length screenplay, and I co-wrote a short film that's already in editing right now, and I'm currently at work on another feature. I don't have to wait around for people to think of me before they write. I can do that on my own now.
There's so much to be said about creating our own content, creating our own art, and writing the roles that you want to play. You don't have to wait around for people to write something that you're perfect for. You do it. And then you produce it. Look at that. You, like you said, you've got one in editing right now. You've got another feature coming up. That's crazy.
I know, I just can't even imagine, like years ago, me thinking that this might be a possibility, but here I am.
Yeah, that's amazing. And let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realize, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living, or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
I owe my first gig to B. Danielle Watkins, and it was just this tiny role. It was maybe 2 or 3 lines for a TV show that, oddly enough, she wrote and created and produced all by herself. But before we began shooting, she put the cast through a mini boot camp. After filming wrapped, she ended up emailing me and requested that I star in a short film that she wrote. No
Oh,
audition. So she said she liked what I did in the boot camp, and somehow it made an impression on her. And it made me, it was one of those moments where you believe, maybe I can be good at this. Maybe this is something that I can do.
for sure. And look, if you're around people all the time, that is more or less an audition, and probably much more of an honest one, really.
Right. You never know who's watching you. You just
Yeah,
don't.
for sure. And let's piggyback on that real quick and talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
You know, it's weird. I actually know the date for this. It
Great.
was October 11th of last year, funny enough. And this day was utter madness. I should probably preface this with something that most people don't know. My business card lists my name and 3 alliterative titles. So it says author, actress, activist. Last year on October 11th, I started off with a 2-hour shoot for a project called the Riveter Listening Tour. They wanted my perspective on being a woman and being a woman of color in the entertainment industry. And then from there, I had a character photo shoot for Lineage, which is a pilot series connected to Supernatural. After that, I had to rush to Alpha Voyage Art Gallery for Authors Portraits LV, which is Las Vegas. They were doing an exhibition opening where they put together a book, and all the authors that are in that book had their portraits on display in the art gallery, and they were for sale. And I was asked to read my short story during the cocktail party. So, during the opening of the gallery event. And from there, I whipped into a side room right there at the gallery and changed my clothes and flew to a performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream where I played Fairy Queen to Tonya. So
What?
it was exhilarating to don all these hats in the same day. And one of my super fans was at the gallery exhibit, didn't know about my performance, and I'm getting an Uber right now. I'm going to go see your show. I'm like, maybe I can just take you. I appreciate so much that you care that much that you're going to drop your plans to be at the gallery opening and come see my performance. And so I ended up bringing her with me. And because I was dressed as the queen, she went in front of me and she was just telling everyone to get out of my way. She's like, make way for the queen, make way for the queen. It was so funny. It's one of those things I will just never forget that day. I will never forget that moment where, wow, I did all of this in one day. All of these things are me. Every piece of it is me. And I felt like I did a lot of good work that day.
Oh, that's so cool. And look, it's clearly panning out that anything you write down comes true, hey?
Not anything, but but more frequently than maybe is comfortable.
Yeah, amazing. And let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And it's a weird time, right, with this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
I do think that crews are going to be smaller, like there's going to be fewer people on set. I don't know how many romantic scenes are going to be present unless you already know the people or you're
Yeah.
quarantining before and after kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm in the middle of filming a short called Wild Within for Brain Puddle Productions. Like we filmed yesterday and we're filming just different days this month. In addition to Lineage, I'm also connected to Anthony Buckwalter's new film, Project Lone Star. And I'm actually playing Catwoman for a fan series from Nutty Fish Productions called DC by Night. Very excited about that.
Very cool.
And then in between those projects, I volunteer for Henderson Writers Group, and I'm just continuing to write screenplays, novels, and my blog on improving intimacy called 52 Love.
And it is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
Okay, let's do it.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Imposter syndrome.
Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
There are plenty of people willing to close doors on you. Stop closing doors on yourself.
Oh, that is great advice. And the third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Keeping a schedule between my writing responsibilities, acting, and volunteering. I'm spread very thin. And if I don't keep a schedule, I won't accomplish everything.
I think schedules are so important and to-do lists. Some people are big list people, some people aren't, but I find that there's more freedom in scheduling and having a plan.
Right. It's essential for me. I have at the least a list, but at the most, I have a schedule in 15-minute increments.
Yeah. Have you read the book, The War of Art?
No, but I'm adding it to my list. It sounds
Yes, you should
awesome.
watch it, or watch it. You should read it, or listen to it. It's
The
really
War
good.
of
It's about
Art.
the War of Art. Yeah. And it's all about saying art is a skill that we cultivate and we do it by showing up every day and practicing that thing on a schedule. And we have these things that we do every single day. And that's how our creativity becomes nurtured. We're not just relying on happenstance and when I feel like it, but that you create that environment for yourself and
Right.
you make it very predictable.
It's very important to me that I have time to work, train, and help others. And if I do not keep a schedule, something is going to get missed or something's going to be neglected. So this is the way I allot time for everything that matters to me.
Great. And the fourth question, what is your best resource? Whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast or piece of technology you've found is helping your career right now.
It is impossible to choose just one. So
Fair,
I'm
fair.
going to try to limit this to three. Henderson Writers Group, the And I Thought Ladies Tales podcast, and the Masterclass series. But who knows? You booked it may be added to the list very soon.
Yeah, there you go. And the fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I would start producing my own content sooner. I used to think it was hubristic to write myself into stories, but now I know it's essential.
Oh, so well said.
Thank you.
And the last question. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Respect your art enough to learn your craft and find your tribe so they can help you apply it.
Really good. I think worth rewinding for everyone.
That's what I like about your show, because you help them find their tribe. You let people know who these others are who have gone and done it before you, so that you can reach out to them and follow their careers and potentially connect with them.
Oh, thank you so much. That has been one of those really fantastic side effects that has come from doing this. And it's one of those things that I had an idea of what I wanted to create when I set out doing this podcast, but there's been all sorts of wonderful things that keep popping up that make this podcast more valuable to our entire community.
Artists need to support artists, and this is a great way to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that. And to wrap up this interview, Tonya, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
I'm available across social media at Ms. Tonya Todd, and you can sign up for my newsletter and or blog at my website, www.mstonyatodd.com. That's Ms., not Miss. It's just MS.
Perfect. And for everyone listening out there, I have put the links to everything Tonya just said into the description of this episode so you can easily connect with her. And be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, or those you know aspiring to create a career in this industry. It is an integral part of helping them succeed. And truly, You Booked It has become the #1 largest resource of expertise in the world on this subject. And when you consider the 5-ish hours or so that it takes me to produce just an episode, it really is too easy to share to not share. And if you like learning how to create a more successful career, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Tonya, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't miss an episode. I have a new guest 7 days a week. Every guest drops more value and insight than any other resource out there. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a rating and review. Also, be sure to head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.